Ciao guys, welcome to another episode of the Personal PR Show. And today we're here with the one and only Bruce Cryer. Hello, Bruce. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, or in your case, afternoon, Jessica. I'm doing well today.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so cool. Where are you based? Because it's a morning for you. You know, I always, if it's the afternoon or the evening for me, and I'm talking to somebody that is having their morning, then I always envy them because they are able to drink coffee, which I love, but I can't drink it in the late afternoon right now. It's too late for me. So you're drinking kind of something similar to coffee, matcha, you told me. So it's early. What time is it and where are you based? I know that, but you know, our audience doesn't know yet.
Yeah, sure. It's about 9:15 here in Austin, Texas. I've just arrived a few weeks ago here in Austin. I don't know how long I'll be here, at least a few months, but we'll see. But I love the community here. It's a very strong, dynamic, entrepreneurial, progressive community. Lots of really cool people here.
Wow, amazing. It's like let's say a happy island in Texas.
Yes. I think that's an accurate way of saying it. It's definitely different than a lot of the rest of the state. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Okay, I'm so happy that you like it there. It's one of my dreams to visit Austin as well. Hopefully you will still be there when I visit it. Otherwise, I will see you in New York City. But Bruce, would you like to maybe introduce yourself? Because our audience knows a lot about you already through your bio, but I think that you can tell us even more about you and what you've done in your life. And then, of course, we'll get into the questions afterwards. So do you feel up for this little intro about yourself?
Sure. I'll try to be brief because I've lived a long life already. And when people look at my bio, it's kind of like, wow, you've done a lot of different things. So I started out as an actor, singer, dancer in New York, musical theater. I was in the longest running musical in the world. I did 800 performances in one of the lead roles. It was an amazing way to kind of start my adult life. But after several years, even though I was quite successful doing commercials, many shows and whatnot, I found myself being called to do something deeper in my life and not to just be on stage entertaining people, but hopefully to learn enough about life that I could educate people. And maybe I could create learning for people that could last a lifetime, as opposed to a lovely experience in an evening at the theater that might be forgotten by Monday morning, right? So I migrated to California, became involved in a number of different businesses, including a very progressive educational publisher, later a nutritional company. In fact, we were the first ones to bring spirulina to the United States, which was one of the first superfoods. So I was head of marketing for that firm. Then later, I was asked to be one of the founding members of an organization called HeartMath. And many people have heard of HeartMath, the HeartMath Institute. So I was one of the original creators of HeartMath, later CEO for 11 years. So I was very much involved. I've traveled all over the world, 4 continents, teaching HeartMath, especially in corporate settings, in healthcare settings, universities. I've taught HeartMath courses at Stanford University. Now, this will be my 26th year of teaching HeartMath at Stanford. Wrote an article about HeartMath around executive health for Harvard Business Review, which they published almost 20 years ago, and then published it again 12 years later, saying this is one of the best articles we've ever had about the topic of executive health, stress, performance. So my life has been very much oriented to health kinds of things. Although the first career doesn't sound like it. When I was an actor in New York, I was a raw foods vegetarian. I was going to yoga classes. I was doing Tai Chi. So my deeper interests were not just kind of being on stage entertaining people, but understanding more about the human system, the human organism, and who we are and all the different levels of what we are. And so that's kind of informed my whole life, is how can I live in a healthy way? How can I help others, inspire others to live to their fullest potential through things that I have learned and that I can speak from experience about.
Yes. Wow.
And then the other big part of my journey, which I can't skip, is that from late 2009 to late 2011, I was dealing with some significant health issues. I'm now a 13-year cancer survivor. So I had surgery for cancer. I had to go into treatments for cancer, and that worked. However, I got staph infections as part of the process of the treatments for the cancer. That got into my blood, staph in my blood, which is itself a life-threatening condition. Obviously, I survived all that. I'm 12 years staph infection free. But all the stuff my body was dealing with caused a rapid deterioration joints, especially my hips, which were already a problem. And so about a year and a half after the cancer surgery, I ended up having a bilateral hip replacement. I had both hips replaced. And people could say, damn, you're old man. And I did go through a lot of old age diseases. And I rationalize this to say, I got old age out of the way, young. So when I'm actually old, I've already dealt with all that stuff. So now it's like no big deal. And now I'm the guy with titanium hips. So watch out, because I'm the one with titanium hips. You don't pity me. I can dance, I can do yoga squats, I can do stuff that guys my age don't do, let alone with titanium hips. So anyway, I've turned it all into, thank God for all of that. Thank you that I've been reborn in a newer, healthier, younger body. And it's awakened a lot of my own inner joy of creativity and creative expression and whatnot. So it's not a sad story, although it's a dramatic one, especially the couple years and my mother passed away during that period, and my marriage was ending, and I decided to step down as CEO of HeartMath all in that same 2-year period. So it was a lot going on every level, but I survived and I'm thriving, and life is good.
Wow, it really sounds like a hero's journey. Does it feel like a hero's journey to you, with the 3 phases?
Yeah. Yeah, no question. Now, had I had that perspective right away, it might have felt a little better as it went along. But luckily I didn't feel frightened to my core at every step. I mean, even though there were a lot of scary things, like when the doctor calls and says, you've got staph in your blood. And I said, that means go to the hospital now, right? That's life threatening, right? He said, yes, that's right. And it didn't kill me. And obviously, and I survived and we got through it. But there were a lot of elements that were very daunting and very much brought in dark nights of the soul. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of self-reflection during this period as I was recovering from a procedure, waiting for a diagnosis, wondering why something wasn't improving, all that stuff that you go through. And you can't help but kind of reflect on every aspect of your life when you're seeing things like even being able to walk downstairs being kind of taken away. I mean, I was able to walk, but I was like in my mid 50s, and I was like, I felt shaky just walking downstairs. And I thought, this is so not okay. There's nothing about this that is okay. And luckily I got through it, and I'm dancing again, and I'm hiking again. I can do everything again, and then some. But anyway, it was extremely daunting in many ways, emotionally daunting, let alone spiritually, let alone physically. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it goes all together, of course. And Bruce, do you think, because you've had so many different stages of your life, so many different careers, like completely different from one another, which makes your life so diverse and so precious and so interesting as well, right? I bet that people want to hear all of your stories, and they really appreciate the contrast between one another, like among all of these stories that you have. And my question now is, do you think there's a common denominator in all of these experiences, which are so diverse? And if so, what is that common denominator?
In all the experiences, the health experiences, you mean the career, moving to different things? And
yes, I would say that the personal brands that you've had throughout your life, I would say, in all of your careers, and certainly they have been informed as well by what was going on in your personal life as well. Certainly, I would say, this is really what I see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I have had the good fortune of several things. One is that I am a naturally very curious person, and I've never lost that. And in the aftermath of all the health stuff that kind of completed around 2011, I started being excited about being a student again. I had been a teacher a lot in HeartMath. I had been, literally thousands of presentations all over the world, groups of 5, groups of 5,000, and everything in between. So I was in a teaching mode a lot. I was also learning, and that's that we developed HeartMath through learning about the human system and about the heart and the brain, and then turning that into techniques and being able to share that as presentations. But I was in so much of a single track of helping develop that system. And now I was sort of out of the main management role. And so what can I learn now? how can I become fresh and learn again? So I would say that I've never lost a curiosity about assuming there are more things I could learn that would be fun and I would enjoy. Because when I look back at my life, I was not a theater kid at all. I never aspired to be on stage at all. when I got asked to play the lead role in the High School Musical, I was told I was given the role. I didn't even audition. That started a career that I never imagined I would have. 2 years after having the lead role in the High School Musical, I have the lead role in the longest running musical in the world in New York City. I was like, how did I get here? How did I get here? But so many aspects of my life have been the same. I was invited into HeartMath. I was invited into the Spirulina Company. I was invited into this to do an album of original songs, which I did with a couple of amazing collaborators named Isaac and Torald Corin. So I've been invited so many times in my life, and I've not said yes to everything, but all the significant things, all the significant elements of kind of the most impressive aspects of my life, I was invited in. I was invited to teach at Stanford. I was invited to teach in a different program at Stanford. I was invited to teach, it's just on and on and on. I was invited to write an article for Harvard Business Review. Like, so, so many things were invitations, but it's also part of my nature is to be curious and not to be so locked in that, because I think intuitively I knew you're supposed to do a lot of things in life. You're not just a one-track guy. I didn't really know what I wanted to be growing up. I thought, I think I'll be a teacher, or, well, not like a public school teacher, but maybe like a minister, but not like in a church. So I didn't really know what I was going to do. I had certain instincts, but I didn't really have a clear sense. Like, unlike my brother, for example, who was president of the Future Doctors Club in high school, and he became a doctor, and he's still a doctor, and that was his track, and he's a brilliant doctor. I didn't have a sense of, there's this thing that I'm supposed to really do in life. And for a while, it's kind of like, well, what am I doing then? Because am I just jumping around? That sounds kind of like a dilettante, or like, but later on, kind of in retrospect, from the benefit of hindsight, I could look back and say there was always a pattern. And this kind of gets back to your question of like, what's the common thread? And I think it was curiosity and a willingness to try things that were brand new for me. And just decide, okay, this feels good. I think when somebody said, you want to try being a dancer in one of the numbers in the high school Christmas show, sure. There were no other good male dancers in my high school, so why not try it? And sure enough, I kind of enjoy learning how to waltz, and I kind of enjoy learning how to do the Broadway dance number. And I thought maybe I could be good at this. I don't know. I'm not sure really. So I had a willingness, but I also had a lot of opportunities from really amazing mentors who were, the people inviting me into things were not just kids on the street corner. These were like extremely accomplished people saying, you're going to play the lead in the High School Musical. And, you're going to, when I got the role in this long running show called The Fantastics, I actually met the authors of the show when I was rehearsing for something. And they asked me if I wanted to audition for the show. And I was like, I'm being asked if I want to audition for the world's longest running musical. Yes. So I after a while, through the benefit of years in hindsight, I started to realize, wow, I have been so fortunate. I have had so many opportunities handed to me, and it was my choice to take full advantage of them and really learn how to do them and be something good that I could be proud of, or not. Yeah. But so I think it's a willingness to say, I can try that. I can. Yeah. That's a weird idea. I never would have thought of that. I think I need to try that. I think I need to see if how I can do that, because maybe in the doing of that new thing, like writing an album of original songs, I never even wanted to write a song. And these two guys say, we think you've got music in you and we can help you bring it out. And I'm saying, well, actually, does it matter that I've never even wanted to write a song? and they're proposing that I spend a lot of money to have them help me write songs. And they said, no, it doesn't matter, because we see the music in you. And I thought about that, and I thought they are really right. Music is so big in my life. There's so many thousands of moments where I've been brought to tears by a James Taylor song, a Mahler symphony, you name it. Anita Baker. I've fallen back in love with Anita Baker lately. That's a whole nother story. The jazz singer Anita Baker, in case your audience doesn't know who Anita Baker is. So anyway, I've been willing to say yes to things that my mind would say, that's crazy. What are you doing, dude? And I've learned to accept the fact that my nature, and I believe everyone's nature, is to continue. We have the opportunity as humans to continue to give birth to new parts of ourselves. And that's the essence of what I mean by the Renaissance human, is that people started calling me a Renaissance man when I was getting well after all the illness stuff. They was like, wow, you're like being reborn. Plus now you're singing again, you're dancing again, like, dude. And so they'd say, you're like a Renaissance man. I heard that a lot. And then at some point I thought, well, I want to do something different than just being a Renaissance man. And then one day the term Renaissance human occurred to me. I thought, that feels different. Renaissance human, what do I mean by that? And I pondered this for months. And eventually I realized, well, Renaissance, the actual word means rebirth, to give birth again. And I pondered that and I thought, well, that's what I've been doing, but I didn't think of it that way. I kind of gave birth to my body again, getting through all the illnesses. I gave birth to my creative spark again. I'd already had it, but I was now doing it again by singing again and dancing again, which all started again in around 2012. And I thought, well, actually humans, we are in this belief system, most people, that the birth and new birth and all that is when we're young. You're learning to walk, you're learning to speak, you're learning to see clearly, you're learning to ride a bike, you're learning language, you're learning subjects, you're learning how to relate to other kids and teachers, and you're learning, and we're developing all kinds of circuitry to support that learning so we can become good at certain things and remember how to do things. So there's a tremendous amount of learning. Then college age hits, and whether you do that or not, there's still a fair amount of learning going on, but all new kinds of, especially social ways, and maybe other ways that are important too. But then we kind of have the mindset, well, then it kind of dies off. You don't keep learning because at some point you got to get serious about earning an income and saving for your future. And maybe you're having kids, and that's a whole nother thing. You're not still learning. Well, actually, of course you're learning. You have to learn how to become a parent. But we kind of lose the idea that learning is an ongoing process in your whole life. And that's the joyful thing, not a scary thing. And so I just kind of never lost that, not because I told myself, don't lose that thing. I just never lost it. And then when I went through all the health stuff, a lot of that energy was reborn of like, I'm alive again. I've made it through these life-threatening situations, but I'm actually more alive now because I've allowed myself to express the singer that I used to be, the dancer that I used to be, the artistic side of me that I used to do more of than I was right now. And so I was allowing these parts of me to be born again. And then I thought, well, but meanwhile, I was learning new things that I had never done, like write songs. I never did that or even tried to do that. So that was a new thing I was giving birth to. And I thought, well, isn't that a whole lot more fun to live with that idea that we get to keep giving birth to new parts of ourselves or rebirth to things that we used to do that we haven't done for 20 years? And isn't that a whole lot more alive way to live? And so that's what I mean by the Renaissance human, is that we're all that way. And being creative is not a reflection of whether you're artistic or not. I've got certain gifts and skills that I developed that are artistic, and so they're public. People can go to YouTube and see a music video of me. They can listen to a guided meditation of me. They can watch my photography gallery on Instagram or whatever. Those are public things. Oh wow, Bruce is really creative. And I'm saying, I know operations people who are at least as creative as I am, and they don't do any of those things. But they're incredible problem solvers. They're incredible in navigating tough customer problems. The people side of things, those are all creative acts. It's not just being artistic that's a creative act, right? Jessica, just from my knowing of you in the last month or so, not even a month. It's not even a month since I was introduced to you. I feel like I see you every day, which I do thanks to social media, let alone we've been on a number of calls. And so I love the newness of life. And it's like, I get to meet new people thanks to other people that I know. And like, this is cool. And it keeps me very appreciative and grateful for life. But it also makes me feel like I can continue to learn. I'm learning from you all the time since I've met you. So anyway, you can tell I like talking about this subject.
Oh, absolutely. And I love asking you questions about this subject, which I will continue to do in a second. But first, I would like to acknowledge that Martina has just joined us, Bruce. You have never met Martina, but you have her. So I'm going to add Martina to the spotlight first. Martina is my lovely COO, plus she has her own business as well. And here she is. Thanks. And she couldn't join us before, but she really, really wanted to meet you and to interview you as well, because sometimes she joins me for interviews. Hello, Martina.
Hi, Jessica. Hi, Bruce. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having
Nice,
me.
absolutely nice to see you too, Martina.
Yeah, and sorry for being late. I just had a meeting I couldn't delay. So, yeah.
No problem. No
Yeah.
problem. Nice to have you. So are you both in Zurich?
I'm actually based in Boston, but I'm now in France right now. So I'm just visiting family.
Oh, okay. Okay, great.
But she's not French, she's Austrian.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and yeah, and she's going to be here in Zurich this Sunday, and we're meeting for the first time. We talk hours and hours
Oh,
every single day, but we're meeting on Sunday for the first time in real life. We can't wait. Yeah,
fantastic. Awesome.
that's great. Yes. Okay, so you got to know each other a little bit already through social media and maybe a couple of messages as
Yeah.
well. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
Martina is going to ask you a few questions as well, Bruce. Martina, we've just talked about you as catch the replay, but we just talked about how Bruce has been able to reinvent himself, his personal brand, so many times during his life. It's crazy how diverse his careers and his businesses have been thus far. It's incredible. And then I asked him, but what do you think is a common denominator? And he said curiosity is his common denominator, like saying yes to things, to opportunities that were presented to him. He never really tried to pursue these careers himself. He just got offered these opportunities from mentors and he just said yes, right? And he went for it every single time. So this is where we're at. This is the stage that we're at in this conversation. So Martina, what would be your question to Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, I missed a lot already that you've been discussing. So I missed the context. And so, yeah, I don't know right now, what to specifically ask because, as I said, I missed the whole part before. So maybe when guys just go ahead and then I'll jump in and I will have question for sure.
Of course, of course.
Sure. Well,
Absolutely.
as you summarized, Jessica, I thought there's one other thing besides curiosity. I said that you exactly summarized what I had said. Then as I heard the summary, I thought there's another important element that I didn't say, and that is playfulness.
Oh,
That is playfulness. That I have never lost a playful spirit, even when I had cancer, even when I had a life-threatening staph infection as a side effect of the treatment for the cancer. I was still finding humor in it. I was still finding like, I can't believe this is happening, but I got to go with it. It's what's happening. I got to make the best of this. I've got several points when I was first diagnosed with cancer. I was in the office of my doctor who said, it's definitely based on where the tumor is. It's definitely cancer. Non-cancerous tumors can't grow in that part of your body. So we already know it's cancer. We just don't know how extreme it is or aggressive it is, or luckily it wasn't that aggressive. It was slow growing. And so they got the tumor out and I've had no problem. I'm 13 years cancer free. So that's a bit of a summary for you, Martina. It was that I went through all that, but it's now quite a bit in the past. And they don't say your cancer is in remission. They say you're cured. In my case, other people it is a remission thing. It could come back. In my case, that's over. It's not going to happen again. And actually you're less at risk than other guys your age now because you're so healthy and you're so conscious of your health on all kinds of levels. So but as I reflected and what I didn't mention so much in the earlier story to Jessica was that in this post health trials, health tribulations period of my life, which was 2009 to 2011 pretty much, a lot of creative things came back. I started singing again. I had been a singer on Broadway in my youth. I started dancing again, even though I now had 2 titanium hips. I discovered, because I had to go through double hip replacement, I discovered that I now had stronger hips than most other people. And if I would work out, if I would work out appropriately and stretch again and build back my body again, I was dangerous because I was the guy with titanium hips. So you see how I, in my own mind, kind of made a joke out of the situation. Not trying to be, well, yes, I was trying to be cute, but it was also true that it was like, you don't need to pity me. You really don't. I've got titanium hips. These are now the strong guys. And it's now up to me if I want to be fully alive again. And I decided I did want to be. And people look at me and watch me dancing and like, okay, dude, number one, there's no way you're the age you really are. And number two, there's no way you have titanium hips. So it's just that can't be possible. So I have fun, like kind of shocking people with, it happens. And don't get me wrong. It took a lot of work. That wasn't just new hips and I'm dancing again. I mean, the amount of pain I had to go through to get back to a body that could be flexible and strong to do all those things. That's a lot of work. A double hip replacement is not minor surgery. That's months of learning how to walk again and with walkers and all that stuff. So it's not for the faint of heart, but you can get through it also if you stay alive and stay. And so my point in this latest story is how important playfulness was to me at every stage of the way. That because if I kept a kind of playful spirit, like when the doctor first told me it's definitely cancer, and he already knew I was a public speaker and I traveled around the world talking about this HeartMath topic especially. I said to him, well, I'm not happy to hear it's cancer. Who wants to hear the C word? And like, oh, wow, I'm one of those people now. On the other hand, I said to him, I will have a story to tell. And his comment was, well, that's a positive attitude to have. That's great. And I said, well, I'm very clear that I'm at a fork in the road right now at this moment. I could easily go down one path and be full of fear and anxiety and worry. And I'm sure I'll have some of that, of course, but I'm also aware that I have a choice and I know enough about the body and about spirituality and about my emotional self-regulation that I want to go this route. I want to try to stay as positive as I possibly can, not knowing that there'll probably be really hard times. Like when I started getting diagnosed with staph infections that were also life-threatening. Like, seriously? Okay, well, how do we get through this one? And I'm not trying to trivialize like, oh, I'm just so lighthearted and I could just I can be very deep and dark and like worried. I can absolutely be that guy. And so it's not just about putting on a sunny face and just being playful and just being curious and but the deeper dimensions of both of those qualities express an openness in the heart, which is not about just being positive. It's also an openness in the heart means accepting I'm freaking scared. I'm freaking feeling like an 85-year-old man and there's nothing about this that I want or that I really want to accept. But I also, if I fight it, that's not going to work either. So I've got to somehow find a way through this and staying curious about life and discovering people are starting to tell me, you're a really good photographer. Are you a professional photographer? I said, not at all. I've got an iPhone 5. At that time, now I've got an 11. I've all the way up to an 11. And people are still saying, you're a professional. You're a professional, right? I have an iPhone 11. That's what I use. So anyway, I was opening myself to, you've got these skills, you've got these abilities. Be curious, stay playful. Look at while you're infusing the anti-staph infection drug in your body, while you're sitting doing that for 6 hours every day for 6 weeks, tied, with a tube with a drip coming into my arm. I had to do that 6 hours a day for 6 weeks for the staph infection. I would go outside on my deck and look at redwood trees or look at beautiful. I was living in the Bay Area, California, and it was a gorgeous area. I thought, I'm here. Yes, I've got this stuff going on. I got tubes and everything else, but I'm here. What can I enjoy while I'm here? If I bring myself into a state of enjoyment and curiosity and playfulness with the squirrel that's jumping around or the chipmunk or whatever, that's a whole different state to put my body in while I'm trying to deal with the staph infection or the cancer or whatever. So I was smart enough about the body to say, the depression stuff, it's natural. Of course you're going to go through it. The worry stuff, of course you're going to go through it. Don't beat yourself. On the other hand, the more you can try to be positive, appreciate the fog burning off and seeing the sunshine come through the trees, appreciate the moment of a curious chipmunk looking, checking me out. What's this human with the thing attached to it? The more you can be in the moment and enjoy and be curious and be playful. Physiologically, your body is entirely different than sitting there in worry and anxiety and fear. You're getting hormones of youth and vitality and healing going through your body by being playful, by being curious, by being open. So it became a couple of years of, you got to live this now, dude. It's not just about teaching it. I mean, live it in a tangible, practical, moment by moment way.
Absolutely.
So I can talk about this stuff. This is my passion.
Yeah, let's continue. And I have another angle for you guys. So Bruce, I loved everything that you said, and I love to really see the common denominator, which was which is to be observed not only in your professional life, in all the careers and the businesses that you've had, but also really in your personal life. This curiosity, this openness, I would say taking risks as well. And there's something that you mentioned about, you know, having an open heart, and also about, of course, a lot of gratitude and see opportunities in the difficult moments that you were living, but at the same time, not falling, let's say, into toxic positivity, which is a thing, definitely. So I think that you found the right balance. And I'm talking about this also because over the past few months, you know, talking with Martina every single day, I have learned that what I have been doing for 10 years of my life wasn't 100% healthy. It really helped me a lot, but it wasn't, you know, let's say the holy grail. And I'm talking about reframing. It's something that I've learned while I was doing a lot of personal development. And I'm super grateful for all I've learned in personal development. And I'll continue doing personal development and reframing and so on, seeing opportunities and so on. But I also learned with Martina that before that, you know, kind of reframing is step number 2. Step number 1 is actually get in tune with our emotions, regulate our emotions, and respect our nervous system. And this is what I learned from Martina. Martina talks about this, like she could talk about this for hours and hours. And I know that, Bruce, you have a background in HeartMath. You were one of the founders. You were CEO for 11 years. So maybe it doesn't have a lot to do with personal branding, but I think that this is an angle that could be interesting for both your backgrounds and your professions and your views. What do you think that, you know, HeartMath and also the nervous system regulation and, you know, getting in touch with your emotions before, you know, getting to the cognitive dimension and rationalize things and reframing things. What do you think these two things have in common? And this is a question that I would like to ask to both of you, if you agree, of course.
That was great. So what do they have in common? Well, I think definitely in my experience, brought into sharp focus because of that 2-year period of having to face a lot of fears that did come up. I mean, as much as I said, I'm going to take the right-hand fork in the road and be as positive as I can so that I can share with others, because I have a platform already, so that might inspire some people to do something new with their life or not be so daunted by a big problem that they're facing. So I was committed to that, but also knowing I'm going to still deal and need to feel open and need to feel accepting of all the dimensions of what I'm going to go through. When I sat there in the doctor's office, I didn't know that 18 months later, my mother would pass away. And she was already in decline with Alzheimer's. So I was actually amazed she lasted as long as she did. But when she finally passed, that was yet another thing in the midst of all this that I was going through. And so I think a lot of the message for me became during that period of accepting what I'm feeling, not trying to push it away, not just trying to transform it into a positive quickly without kind of understanding. Yes, my mother was gone because of Alzheimer's years before she finally passed away. Yes, she hadn't remembered having children, let alone being married for years. Yes, she couldn't even put together a coherent sentence for years before she finally passed. But when she finally passed, I still finally had really lost my mother. So that was a huge thing in the middle of healing from everything, and also wondering am I really supposed to stay CEO? I love this organization. It's been my life. I feel like I've contributed so much to its creation and its growth. But is this really what the only thing that I'm supposed to do? And increasing the answer was no, there is something more. But the more wasn't clear. It wasn't like, here's what you're supposed to do. It was more like, you need to heal. First, you need to heal. And then it'll get more clear as you heal. So in the process of healing, I had to be able to be willing to accept the grief of loss, of choosing to step away from an organization that I had helped to build and help to grow and all that. Step away from a marriage. My mother was gone. There was a lot that I was sort of losing in the midst of trusting that there was also something I was to gain and to learn and to grow from. So it was not an easy time. And the emotional part was actually more challenging than the physical. As daunting as the physical sounded from that story, it was all this emotional stuff that was way more keeping me awake and way more like, wow, how would that work? those kind of questions going on. And so I had to be willing to hear that internal dialogue of, really, you're really thinking of doing that? Seriously? And I have to kind of have conversations with myself, but I trusted that there was some kind of guidance through all of this, that it wasn't just me being crazy or stupid or taking a left-hand turn in my, going to the dark side or something. That was not a concern.
Yeah.
Whether I was doing it right was I didn't know. How do you know?
Oh my God, I love
You're,
this, Martina.
I like how you're nodding, Martina. It seems like some of this is resonating a lot for you.
Yeah, totally. So thanks, Jessica, for this angle of topic. It's really like, it's so heart opening for me. The whole conversation, and Bruce, what you're sharing so openly, and what you have been through. And I just observed my nodding is always like my nervous system is like going up and down the nervous system ladder.
Yeah.
Like appreciating, because it's like, it's a story that's so captivating, and it shows like the resilience, the strength behind what you have been experienced in life, and it's just, wow, it's just, I'm just so in awe, I have to admit, to be very honest. And I love that you were mentioning how important the grief part is, because I think like human beings, when we have loss, be it our health, be it someone close to us, right? I mean, the first thing that many people do is just closing the heart, right? Like closing down, shutting down everything, all the feelings, all the emotions, because it's so painful. And it's worse than any physical pain, because we just don't know how to handle that, right? And it's not as easy to go to someone and say, oh, I have grief, can you give me something, right? It's just not the process. When I have physical pain, you kind of know where to go. But if you have grief, it's also like letting go of the resistance of, not wanting to grieve. And then not resisting actually the resistance.
Yes.
There are so many layers to it. And I feel like in business and in life, people just, don't know how to grieve. They don't even know what that is. And there's so much like fear around it, because it's such a painful experience, and it really brings the nervous system in so much like up and down. And, when it comes to the heart, when you just open your heart to be able to allow the grief, and for me, this is all to do with the nervous system always, because, the heart rate, the heart rate variability is actually just, steered by the autonomic nervous system. And that's, where I always say that's what's opening your heart and what's closing your heart. Because obviously, if I'm not in ventral energy, I'm just, constantly, trying to survive without consciously knowing, but that's what your body does. And when I'm in that state, I'm not being open to just also receive what else is there, the lessons learned. So there was so much in this conversation, that I could also talk for hours now. Thank you for touching on those topics, because that's just so important to acknowledge. And especially, Jessica, when you were sharing also from your story, right? This bypassing, this emotional bypassing, and also called spiritual bypassing. But for me, it's more the emotional side that is so dangerous, because I have so many clients who's like, it makes all sense. It makes all sense. And I was like, F your sense making, your nervous system doesn't make sense, out of, what you're doing here. We have to get you back to a state where you're connected and peaceful, where you have a coherence with your mind and your body. And you can do this through various ways. And often it's just you're unblocking yourself from the emotions that you don't want to feel.
Yes,
beautiful.
It's actually one of the ways to start. Because I did have a HeartMath instrument tool. My ex-partner had it, and so I tried a couple of times. And is that one of the ways, one of the techniques in order to regulate your nervous system?
At the core of HeartMath, Martina, you're a HeartMath practitioner, aren't you?
I did a certification a while back. Yeah.
Okay, in Europe or through the US?
It was in Europe. I was back in Europe back then.
I'm just curious, because I did a lot of work from 1995 until 2015, developing a lot of the HeartMath work in Europe, working with the HeartMath Benelux, Robert Erdbrink, who's the Dutch guy who developed a lot of the work in Europe. HeartMath Germany with I'm forgetting his name, the HeartMath UK guys for years. So I've done dozens and dozens of trips to Europe to help establish that. And I've been involved in HeartMath train the trainer programs especially in Holland and in the UK, both Holland and the UK. So, and I'm just curious where and how you learn about it all. But yeah, it's I think this acknowledging of grief or sadness or anger or any of the things that we think of as stressful emotions is a huge part of what I learned. I learned another level of the importance of it through my own journey, that dealing with so many emotional things at the same time that these quote physical things were going on made it like, okay, which level are you going to get worried about now? I mean, there was so much going on, kind of this stream of, wow, let go, release. What are you feeling? Really trying to really allow myself to feel what I was, and not bypass, not try to go to the positive. Just get coherent now. Just get into your coherence. I thought yes, I want to get coherent. Yes, I don't want to be wallowing in a depressed state or an angry state or anything like that, or resentful state. On the other hand, if I'm not fully feeling what the potential of that feeling could lead to, or what I'm feeling deeper, I think I'm missing out on the power of the positive of it. And that's what I began to learn, is the more I would allow myself to really feel the grief of the loss of my mother, the loss of my marriage, the feeling of, even in stepping down from the CEO, that some people felt I was abandoning them. Some people felt betrayed by me. I had to go through this, like, oh my God, that's not what's going on. If you had gone through any of that I just went through over these last 2 years, you might understand a little more that I'm not rejecting by moving on in my life. I'm not rejecting. In fact, 12 years later, after I stepped down from CEO of HeartMath, I'm still teaching HeartMath all the time. I'm still talking about it on podcasts all the time. It wasn't a rejection at all. It was more like my life continues to evolve. And now now there's another phase. I don't even know what it is yet. And people would say, so what are your plans now that you've left HeartMath? I said, to heal. That I know I have to do. I got to learn to walk again comfortably. And that much I know. And beyond that, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure. And I'm kind of, I have to be okay with that, because I can't force what the next step is. I intuitively knew that had to unfold. It wasn't just a matter of rejecting that because you want to start this new thing. That was never what was going on. It was more like something is supposed to emerge now. And all these things as you've gone through, first of all, you have to really rest. You have to really recover from all of this. That has to happen. You can't build anything new without fully getting ready for it. So I knew that much. But yeah, I think the bypassing is a big deal, because you can so quickly want to go to the positive, and of course the social media culture just makes that much worse, because you've always got to look good, you've always got to look happy, and you got to have the insightful comment, and the wise he really has learned something in his life, kind of comment. And but anyway, I think the other big thing for me over the years has been, and this is very much influenced by the fact that I had been an actor and had been paid to be somebody else. I used to joke about this, that I left acting because I was always paid to be somebody else, and I wanted to do a job where I could actually just be myself. And then I got a corporate job where I couldn't actually be myself, because the corporate culture didn't exactly approve of that. You needed to be the role. I thought, well, it was more fun being paid to be a fun role instead of just being a kind of cardboard version of myself. Why would you do that? So over time, I realized I still had some of the actor in me that kind of wanted to be a role, because it's just a part of my nature. I enjoy telling stories. I enjoy being the dancer, being the singer, whatever. I enjoy that. So it's kind of easy to fall into that, as opposed to being more authentic and really, really speaking from my heart, really reflecting deeply. What am I really feeling right now? What is that little niggle of anxiety going on? What is that? Let's be honest about this, because what I found was, as I was honest with the negative side, so to speak, I use air quotes a lot, don't I? When I'm honest about the quote negative side, what was released was all this power for the positive. I am brought to tears with joy more times than I can tell you. I mean, my joke is, I am my last name being Crier, and I live out my last name. It's not a joke. It's true that if I have not cried in a day, I'm like, what happened? You're not in touch. And to cry,
Yeah.
not because you're so sad about something, but this morning there was a moment in my meditation where I just opened up to the magnificence of the presence of God in my heart. And that feeling was just a melting of my heart and just tears of absolute gratitude of the magnificence that I can feel inside me. And I didn't used to go there. That didn't used to be a thing for me, to be brought to tears by the joy of a piece of music, and indeed a Baker song, which I referred to earlier, or a Mahler symphony, or whatever it may be. So I found that by being more real and authentic about the niggling anxieties, which were really fears or really worries or depression, whatever it was, being more real about that and allowing myself to accept and embrace that was going on, not trying to push it down or just get coherent now, allowed me to have so much more power in the positive. It's like now when I'm grateful, it's like I'm brought to tears with gratitude, which is like, oh my God, this song right now. Thank you, God, for giving me this song right now. Wow, is this amazing? And I didn't have that to that degree before, So I think that's part of the unexpected maybe benefit of being more authentic with the quote negative emotions, because on the other side of them is more power in the positive than you ever could imagine. It's like, damn, I feel good about that sunrise this morning. That's a real thing, by the way. I woke up, pulled up the blinds. Oh my God, look at the colors in the sky. Put on my sweater over my pajamas, went downstairs, snapped some pics of this gorgeous Texas sunrise. And so a sunrise affects me more emotionally than it ever used to. Not because I'm like about to break because of a sunrise, but it's more like, wow. And we get these every day. We can. Life, nature can give us amazing moments to be overtaken by joy or beauty or magnificence or sweetness. Whatever.
Oh my God, I love that. Oh, I'm learning so much from you guys, already from you, Martina, over the past few months, and now from you as well, Bruce. I don't know. I'm such in a precious room right now. I'm super, super grateful. Wow, it's exciting. Bruce, you have to come back to the Personal PR show. Next time, Martina will be there from the very beginning.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. So Bruce, we have one last question that we ask all of our guests, and we always get different answers, which makes the question sometimes a little bit like, let's say, sometimes challenging. Let's see what you respond. So what is a question that I didn't ask you over the past 59 minutes, but I should have asked you?
Wow, good question. How are you doing with your personal relationships?
So Bruce, how are you doing with your personal relationships?
I didn't say I would answer that. I just said that's the question you should have asked.
All right. So
it's an interesting challenge. Actually, I'm not in a relationship, so that's that. But there's a lot of people are attracted to me for different reasons, and sometimes it's not clear what the motive is, and sometimes I'm attracted to them and not sure what the motive is. And one of the things I discovered about myself is, and I actually learned this partly from the human design work. I'm a projector in the human design model, if you know that system at all, which means I have a nature. Okay. So I have a nature, I guess, Martina, you understand this, of projecting. My design is like 10% of the world's population, supposedly, to project yourself into any situation like I am right now, the two of you. And to be very much involved emotionally with that and just to be absorbed in it. And I when I was told that, I thought, that's totally me. I didn't ever know that was kind of how I'm designed, like 10% of the population. But it also means, so you're very sensitive to what the feelings are, that you could be feeling things that aren't just your own feelings. And actually, why did I even go off onto that? I think I'm just riffing now and having fun talking with you two beautiful people. But so I guess I have a lot of, my point was when I went through that initial analysis of my design, he said, so you have an interesting challenge, because he said, when he looked at my chart, he said, you are in 25 years of doing this work, you are the most open person I've ever seen. You are so open, where most people have a gate where it's like, well, they have to perceive life or respond to life in a certain way. You're open in those gates. So you're like really open to life. I thought, okay, that's true. I didn't know I was like the most open you've ever seen, but that's interesting. But he said, so part of your challenge is because you can express yourself in lots of ways, through song, through dance, through photography, through just communication, whatever, poetry, whatever. A lot of people will be wanting to be with you. And he didn't mean just, romantically, but just want you on their show, want you in their business, want you to coach them, whatever. So your challenge is going to be when do you say yes and when do you say no, because there are all these connection points and your projectors. So people feel very at home with you because your nature is to harmonize with every situation, not to take it over or try to dominate it, but just to harmonize. Like, I want to be harmonious with you guys. So that's been an interesting learning, because it does mean an awful lot of people want to connect. And sometimes I get kind of lost in what's going on here. What am I doing? Is this really for me, from my higher benefit, or is it just I appreciate the attraction, or I appreciate the attention, or whatever it may be. So it's a challenge at times.
So knowing how many people want to be in your presence, Bruce, I'm very, very flattered that I got to be on 3 or even 4 calls with you this week.
Well, I pay attention to things that resonate for me, Jessica, and you and how you've set this up, and the people that I've met are fantastic people. And I'm super grateful that my friend Tyler introduced me to you, who's now introduced me to Martina and many, many others already. So I pay attention to that. And when I feel a resonance, it's like, I want to go for that. I don't have the filters that say, oh, be careful. Just like this is really great. And each person I've been meeting so far have been very interesting and lovely. And Martina, your insights around the nervous system, and I can see the depth of your inner work, let alone your knowledge of how these systems work. So that's a joy for me to, I know exactly what you're talking about with all the, I've said similar things for, I'd hate to tell you how many times, but thousands. Like when I stepped down as CEO, I figured I had done around 3,000 presentations of HeartMath. And that was 12 years ago. And I haven't done it at the same pace since then, not at all. But I'm still.
But you still do it, yeah.
Still do it, yeah. And it's always so fun for me when I meet someone who is deeply into not just HeartMath, but the understandings of things like nervous system regulation and how fundamental that can sound. Super geeky, like nervous system regulation. That's okay. What's the benefit of that again? For the uneducated, right? But for those who know, it's like, yeah, let's talk more about that.
Yeah,
It's so fundamental,
It's so fundamental to the nervous system that we found that the nervous system plays a fundamental role also when it comes to visibility. Of course, when it comes to visibility, you need personal PR and all the stuff that I've been talking about for a while. But then I found recently, by talking with Martina, that visibility is not only an outer game, there's an inner game to this as well. And that is exactly nervous system regulation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you can even bring the nervous system visibility as well. So it has you can create a bridge between nervous system work and public relations as well. It's crazy. Like nervous system regulation is everywhere.
Yeah, we need them more and more, because if you get exposed, if you expose yourself to the world, you need to know you need to know yourself, know thyself, but need to know your nervous system and how it responds in various situations, right? Especially when you're on Zoom calls as well, right? It's like, there's always a trigger there in a positive and negative sense, right? Or you get a comment, or you get a feedback that isn't the nicest, so you need to know how to handle that. And I feel like that's so needed. And combining PR with nervous system work, I found like it's the missing piece in this industry that we are in right now. So yeah,
if I could just add one comment, I love that, Martina and Jessica, this connection. In my experience, back to the theme of what you call this program, the reinvention of your personal brand and kind of how that works. To me, without the ability to internally be flexible, which means nervous system regulation, a nervous system that's dysregulated is brittle. It means we react with anger or frustration or worry quickly. Yeah. Now, if your nervous system is more flexible, more pliable, you're able to move you're able to pivot, not as a concept, but as a physiological, mental, emotional quality. You're able to, okay, life is giving me some new information. When I had the insight into meditation 1 month ago, you need to come to Austin. Like, okay, that sounds interesting. I think that's a good idea. I think I'll embrace that. And here I am, and all this is, so much is unfolding. But the idea of the necessity to in order to continually grow and be able to reinvent our brand and have that be authentic, like you and I were talking about earlier, Jessica, not just I'm reinventing myself because there's this new trend I want to be seen as a leader of, but that's not authentic. But if your nervous system is truly balanced and flexible and pliable, you can follow that instinct, that intuition, that I need to become this new part of me now. And it's supported by a nervous system that's ready, as opposed to a nervous system that's still brittle and stuck and hypervigilant all the time. And therefore your attempt to rebrand yourself is not going to be authentic. And so my last little comment on this whole nervous system thing. So somebody sat me down about a year ago to check my HRV and heart rate variability, and he knew I'd been one of the developers of HeartMath, and he figured I probably had a decent HRV. And he was right. And he did this 3-minute collected data for 3 minutes. It was a system called Vital Scan, these big paddles that were put on my wrist, not just like little electrodes. I thought, well, if the technology goes bad, this will like restart my heart or something. Like, why are these big paddles? It's kind of weird. But anyhow, it was just measuring more than the normal HRV system would measure, like it's even getting into brain stuff apparently. So anyhow, long story short, he measures all this stuff about me, and then it gets this final chart, and it said chronological age and biological age, and the gap between my chronological age and the biological age was 31 years. So my body is 31 years younger than, at least in that test, in that moment, but I think it's generally probably pretty true. So there's a significant gap. And I said to him, that's a pretty big gap. I'm like, that you've just made my year with this little test here. And I said, have you ever seen that big a gap, 31 years? And he said, no, that's the biggest I've seen. So when he said, is that because of HeartMath? I said, partly. The 20 years that I was teaching it every day and living it every day and practicing all the tools, absolutely, that was the thing. And yet, in spite of that, I went through all those illnesses. So it wasn't just HeartMath. Then I have to blame HeartMath for that too, right? So I thought what I recognized was, yes, that was an incredible foundation that I've had and helped me get through all of that very well. My resilience was high going into all those health things because of all the heart rate variability work I had done. But I felt like why I'm so much younger now, years after leaving, was because I'd embraced the tough emotions. I'd embraced the sadness, the grief, but not gotten stuck in them. And so that's why I was younger. That's why I was more alive and more vital. My nervous system learned how to go there but not get stuck there.
So nervous system regulation is actually an anti-aging strategy.
Yeah,
it's big time. For sure.
It's rejuvenating. You feel to get flexible, right? And it keeps you young. It has also to do with your facial expression. And in the end of the day, right, it's all steered by the autonomic nervous system. And certain wrinkles come from suppressing or having certain emotions like expressed all over the place, right? Like frustration, anger, sadness. You can see this all in the face, and that makes you old. That's aging you, So that's why I love when you were saying that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have a friend who teaches face yoga, and she says that actually, in order for our cheek not to fall down with age, we should smile a lot. Right? So if we are happy people and we smile a lot, actually, we will age less quickly.
Of course.
All connected. Oh my God, I love this, guys. I have to have our show again. You, Martina, anyway, because you're my host anyway. But Bruce, you have to come back. Are you willing to?
Are you willing to?
Oh boy, I don't know. I would have to go through another hour of smart, intelligent, wonderful ladies and talk about topics that are of deep meaning to me. I don't know. She's up. Let me think about that. I'll have my people get with your people.
Think about it.
Think about it.
Yeah.
We can ask your team if you're too busy, right? We can talk to your team.
Yeah, I'll send somebody. I'll send somebody for me. No, I'd love to. Thank you for the invitation. I would totally love to. Absolutely.
Oh my God, it's so cool. We will find another angle that is aligned, of course, to personal PR, but personal PR is so many things. We can talk about relationships as well, because we talk about super connecting and community and so on. We can take so many different angles. I think that Brucey will have to come back to the personal PR show at least 10 times, once a month.
Yeah.
And I promise Martina will always be there.
Always on time. And I just want to acknowledge that we really, with the colors that we are wearing today, we are really aligned, as if we would have agreed upon wearing black today. I think you were also wearing black, right?
Well, it's kind of a dark blue, actually, but yes,
blue,
it's
okay.
close enough. I noticed the same. I noticed the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
At least the darker colors. Okay. Now I see it's actually really dark blue nowadays.
Yeah. But we go well together, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Next time, all red. Everybody red next time, and then blue, and then pink, and then and so on. So every time it will be. Perfect. But guys, this conversation has been amazing. Bruce, we're so grateful for this lovely hour. Actually, I would even say 75 minutes that we spent together. This has really been a treat for us. Thank you so much.
Well, it's been a treat for me. Sincerely, I love talking about these topics, but to have two people so intrigued by the conversation, and let alone all of the unique perspectives you each have, that's a joy for me. So thank you both. Really love it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is what it's all about. It's about, basically exchanging ideas with one another, getting influenced by each other's perspective and so on, and producing new ideas, new angles and so on. We love that. We live for that, actually. Awesome.
Yeah. Great.
To go into your day. It's 10:15 for you, so have a lovely day in Austin, Texas, and we will talk to you very, very soon.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessica. Thank you, Martina.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
So much for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon for another episode of the Personal PR Show. Bye.
Ciao.